Hey, welcome back to the Real Estate Excellence Podcast. Today's guests are a powerhouse real estate couple redefining hustle, heart, and what it means to build a legacy through real estate in Northeast Florida. She went from working multiple jobs as a single mom to becoming one of the top producing agents in her market, closing 22 homes in her first full year and over 40 in the next. He is a former electrical systems expert who deployed around the world, left corporate grind to join his wife full-time in the business, bringing leadership, systems thinking, and a passion for building something of their own. Together, they've built a real estate team that's turning heads, learning fast, and showing what's possible when your work ethic matches your ambition. They're proof that you don't need a perfect start. You just need the guts, the start, and the grind to keep going. Let's welcome Lindsay and Matt Parham to the show.
Thank you.
Thank you. That was ChatGPT.
Isn't that awesome?
Yeah. I've been using it lately, and what I've been doing is I took the bio that you submitted online. I put that in there, and I say, hey, I need a thing, and that's what it came up with. So
You know, a lot of agents actually use that for the listing descriptions too.
yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Just got to check it.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. Read through it. Sometimes I don't go, but mine is a little more simpler than the listing description because there's some legalities obviously involved.
Absolutely.
But what I'm amazed, I've been using it more and more for the social media for the show. As I had a guest on a few months ago, and she's like, you need to be using, use ChatGPT to do the captions for Instagram.
Mm-hmm.
So what I do after each show, I have a transcript. I upload the transcript. The show notes have all your social media links and so forth. I upload that to ChatGPT, so it knows now because I have kind of set a standard. This is what I want the caption to have in it. Promote the show. Put this link. Put their social media and all that kind of stuff. And I tell it, hey, on this reel, this is what they were talking about. Find it in the transcript and give me a caption.
That is awesome.
Yeah. So it's consistently, for the SEO.
Yep.
And then always, if you go on anyone's caption, it has links. So anyone looking at it can actually contact you through the show. So, yeah. But like I said, we're only just tipping just a tip of AI. Right now.
Absolutely.
Yeah, what it's going to be able to do for you. But welcome to the show. Glad you guys made it all the way up from
Thank you.
Palatka. It's funny. I was talking about my last guest, Gelkis from Miami, and I was telling her, I said, hey, some areas to look into. Because she does some fix and flips and that sort of thing, but she's big in a real estate investment. I said Green Cove Springs, and then Palatka's next, and I think right now you can get in there really well.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Right now, you got Clay County, St. Johns County, and Nassau, and even Flagler County. Their medium sales price point is like 100,000 over Putnam.
Mm-hmm.
There's so many deals to be made. He does a lot of investor stuff, so he's more into that area. But yeah, Palaka's it's starting to really be. We got a Wawa and a Longhorn.
Where's that seafood restaurant that's kind of in the middle of town? I've been there. It's very
Corky
popular.
Bells.
I think
Muscle Whites.
it's that one. That
People like Corky Bells because you can walk on the river.
I don't remember
But if
walking
you
on
want
the
good food, you want Muscle Whites.
Yeah,
Muscle Wides.
yeah. They're
Muscle Wides.
Whites.
Whites. Oh, muscle. That might actually. I'll have to check it. It's been a while since I've been down there. We drive through. Obviously, every time I go to Gainesville, it leads us back through Palatka.
Yeah.
Yeah. To cut across
You know
there.
what? You might be thinking about Bradley's too.
But Matt, you're a fisherman, and Palatka's like the place to be for bass fishing. Am I right?
Yeah. That's my
bass
stomping
capital.
grounds between bass fishing, red fishing, shrimping during the summertime. There's always something out
Yeah.
there.
Yeah. Is there some of the national tours, the bass fishing pro-am or whatever they call it,
Got some of the
comes
biggest
through there?
ones. Yes.
Yeah.
We've got some of the biggest ones that are in there. Everywhere from Palatka up near the bridge all the way down south towards Salt Springs.
Yeah.
Yeah.
My parents were RVing for basically from about 96 to 2016, and then we got them out of the RV. They lived in an RV for 10 years, but they came one winter and spent it in Welaka, which was really unique little place. I mean, there's some treasure of Florida, I think.
Oh, absolutely. There's
Yeah.
one red light in Palatka.
Yeah.
No, that's definitely a very special part of Putnam County. And then you have Georgetown. It's like a little teeny tiny spot in Putnam County that's really neat as well.
Do you find, you're with Momentum, so you got the agents all over, Florida calling in. When we have these clients who are looking for, they think they want acreage and so forth. Is there still opportunities at a reasonable price to get down there and get 5 or 6, 10 acres of land? Do you get a lot of referrals from that?
Yeah.
Because there's nothing in St. John's is way too expensive for anything like that. Although there are some plots and areas, but to go over into Putnam from a tax standpoint and the price point,
it's huge. Yeah, I mean, we had a closing probably 6 months ago or so now. I mean, a couple came in, a VA loan, and they were in the mid 200s and were able to get into a home on 4 acres of property.
nice.
So that was awesome for them. And then we've also got some of the cheapest waterfront property too.
Yeah.
Satsuma is probably one of the premier areas for that, just because you've got deep canals, easy river access, Dunn's Creek, stuff like that, and you can get a house on the water in the low twos.
Yeah. Yeah. I'm gonna have you just
which you can't
turn that tip of that mic so you're so it's pointing. Yeah, there we go. Good.
Is that better?
Yeah.
And
much
another
better.
thing about Putnam County when it comes to land and building, we still don't have impact fees. Where St. Johns County, impact fees is what, 16,000
Or more.
Yeah.
Or more.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's huge. I didn't actually
Absolutely.
realize that because I told you I was on the Affordable Housing Advisory Committee in St. Johns County, and that's the biggest nemesis of trying to build an affordable home or get these builders to build an affordable home,
Exactly.
as they start off $15,000-$20,000 in the hole because
off
of
the
an income.
bat.
Yeah.
Yep. Yeah, there's actually some new construction homes from Century Complete that have been in Crescent City, Palatka, and now they're starting in Hollister, which is right outside of Palatka. And you're buying a brand new house for $235.
Yep.
3
Yeah.
bed, 2 bath.
Yeah. We're on the subject, but I just want to stay on it for a minute because that's going to lead us into talking about Palatka in general. Going back in history, obviously you guys live there, so you've experienced what the history of Palatka as it's grown. There's also a tremendous amount of manufactured homes there.
Yes.
Yeah. And I remember going, like I said, my parents spent the winter one time in Palatka, so we were down there, kind of, took a turn off the road and stuff, and you find some of these neighborhoods. Would those go back to the 80s, the 70s, when people were kind of,
Absolutely.
migrating down slowly before Florida really
Yep.
kicked in?
Yep.
Yeah.
We got one for sale right now that is a 1971 1 bed, 1 bath on a little under a quarter of acre. It's an older home and it can't be financed because of the age.
Yeah.
But it's only $60,000.
Right.
We are very well educated when it comes to mobile homes now and what inspections are required. But there's people that will move out of state and they're like, I've never seen so many mobile homes. But living in Putnam County, it is so common. Like 9 times out of 10, that's what we sell.
How difficult is it for someone to, you got a 1971, but the lot's great, right? How difficult is it for them to get that one removed and bring in a new manufactured home?
Yeah, so it's not too terribly hard. I mean, if you're looking at just bringing out a single wide, you're looking at $10,000 to $15,000.
Yeah. To bring it in, set it up, remove the old
to
one.
get rid of the old one.
Yeah.
That's just to get rid of the old one.
Okay.
Yep. One of the biggest issues, like she was talking about, that we run into though, is because people aren't familiar with a lot of the mobile homes. Just because, like she said, if they're coming in from out of state, the lenders they're working with aren't familiar with it. The insurance companies they're working with aren't familiar with it. So it really does pay to have somebody that's familiar with those processes, with the lenders that work with it, with the insurance companies that work with it. Because I've had several buyers that I've been working with, and they'll have a lender tell them, "Hey, listen, you're good for $300,000. Go find you a home," and they never disclose to them the fact that I meant a stick home or a concrete home, not a mobile home.
Right.
So they've went out. We've spent 2 months looking for a place. They finally found something they really fell in love with, and then they call up the lender, and the lender says, "Oh, well, I didn't mean that kind of home."
Yeah.
So having local lenders, local insurance companies, local realtors that know the market, that know the infrastructure, kind of what it takes to build that entire case around your mortgage and your home.
It's really not. I mean, all lenders. I've worked for several of them, 20 years in the business. They all have their what we call overlays.
Yes.
Like how old it can be. Some lenders only do double wides. They won't do a single.
Correct.
Right.
Yeah.
Some do double wide, some do single wide, some lenders only do post 76 once the HUD labels went into effect. we work with some lenders that do pre-76. On a case
You
by
need to
case
find
basis.
those because you're in there.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And that's kind of part of the value that's associated with working somebody that's in the market that knows it is, we can tell you right off the bat before you've wasted time, money for inspections, all these other, things, whether or not you're even going to be able to do anything with it.
Right.
Yeah.
And I think, and also, especially if you're on the sales side, you're on the listing side, it's good to have someone who's savvy in dealing with like getting the engineering. We know in engineering, here's the engineering report.
Right.
A lot of times I'm sure you deal with it. A lot of times you get these agents that never sold one before or only sold one. I forgot to turn my thing up. Only sold one manufactured home. They don't know some of these little things, but
Absolutely.
you guys, because you're living in it, that's your zone.
Yep.
Hey, this is what you need to do, and here's who you need to call. And
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah. He actually had a closing, I think, about a month ago. And so not only do we have to worry about the engineer report, for the tie downs and whatnot, but he had to literally tear down panels in one of the closets to find the HUD.
No. I had to pull off the siding off the house to find the HUD labels because
they resided it at one time?
Because they resided it. The IBTS report wasn't coming in time. So I had to go out, pull off the vinyl siding to the house, locate both HUD labels to get to insurance and lender to get
But you had an idea where it was.
Yeah.
Yeah. So there's like 2 or 3 spots in a mobile home where it can be.
Right.
A closet underneath the sink and on the outside.
Yeah.
Right. Well, and those are the reports, and then your HUD labels are on the exterior, normally on the
Like a
back
tiny
side where they
license plate.
trailer it.
I remember years ago when I first was working. I was working with Quicken Loans at the time, now Rocket, and yeah, that was a big thing because people remove them, or in this case, they covered them, which is probably more like the case.
Yeah.
They covered it up because they resided or whatever. But yeah, it was let's we kind of jumped ahead a little bit in my normal program routine, but we got on a good subject. I don't want to interrupt it. Let's talk about growing up in Palatka for the two of you. Tell us a little about and then what the different. Your life led you to doing some different work. You're working in restaurants and so forth. Give everyone a little background about yourselves. Whoever, Matt, if you want to go first. Growing up, how'd you get to Palatka and growing up there, and what it was like, and.
Yeah, no. So I mean, I was blessed growing up. I grew up on a small farm. We had about 15 acres and had a 50,000 acre backyard that was the hunting club. So when I was younger, we grew up doing everything from riding 4-wheelers to horses to even taking the VHS recorder and videotaping us riding the hogs before we would send them out to the fair. And I think I've still got those recordings somewhere, but it was the annual hog riding contest.
I've heard those tapes will actually eventually go bad, so you probably want to get
Probably
those
do
and
that
get those
sooner
over the
than later.
digital. Yeah.
But no, that was awesome. And when I was about 17 or 18, we moved over to St. Augustine, kind of introduced me into a different clientele other than, where I grew up, which was out in Barton, which was great. Just, there wasn't a whole lot there. Not a lot of industry, not a lot of people willing to do things outside of the box. And when I moved over to St. Augustine, it introduced me to a whole new group of folks, especially in the marine environment. And I worked at West Marine for a couple years, and while I was there, I got introduced to charter captains. I got introduced to people that manufactured rods for folks. I got introduced to a lot of influential people in the area. I mean, towards the point to where I was getting invitations to go out on $1 million yachts that I could never even imagine having.
Right.
Just because they wanted somebody to go out with them that knew the electronics or knew the systems, or I mean, hell, just was there to.
Was this sort of a passion? Because I was reading your bio and so forth. Obviously, growing up in Palatka, great fishing. You were kind of there, and then you come over to St. Augustine. You just had a passion for boating and fishing and that sort of thing.
Yeah, I mean, that was really the genesis why we moved to St. Augustine, was to be closer to the ocean. We loved diving. We loved offshore fishing. Growing up in Palatka, we did a lot of freshwater fishing, but as soon as I got my first taste of saltwater fishing, that was about all it took.
Yeah.
You go to catch 2 or 3 brim, or you catch a cobia. You tell me which one you want to throw in the cooler.
Yeah. I told you I grew up on Cape Cod, and sports fishing was what I did. My dad actually, I worked for the captain my first summer. Next summer, he bought in as a partner. My dad did so, and then that partner eventually left after a couple of years. He was older anyway, and moved on. So that's what we did. And now I'm like, okay, I'm gonna go out. I just want to catch one big one.
Exactly.
That's my. Don't give me a bunch of small ones. I can go to the restaurant and they can cook it for me. I just want to catch the big one.
We called that hero or zero.
Yes.
Either way, it's a good deal. Either way, you have to go home and you don't have to clean fish, or you go home and you get to clean a really nice fish.
When we first got together and he started taking me offshore, girls, we don't really care about fishing, or most of us don't. And I was like, "Ooh, dolphins! Where?" I'm like, "Porpoises."
Yeah.
So there's like you can't say dolphin on the boat.
So you're at West Marine.
Yep. So I worked at West Marine for a while. Minimum wage, making not minimum wage, but $8.25. Not making anything, and got an opportunity just in kind of, again, that sphere I was telling you about in the marine industry, where I got to know one of the local owners of a company, Solar Stick, and that was Brian Bosley. And I got to become friends with him, worked at that company for about 11 years, and did everything in the world from building systems to running QC to running an engineering team, really, really every facet of the company.
Right.
And kind of got burnt out there after a while.
Yeah.
And figured, let's go from trying a small corporation to a large corporation to see how that feels. And that didn't work either. That didn't jive.
There's something about us, growing up on the water, which sounds like that's pretty much what you did. You grew up on your boating and fishing, and you're out there. It's very hard for us to come into, especially when you're still young.
Yes.
And to come into that corporate setting. I remember calling my parents and going, "Hey, I got this job opportunity. I can do this," or I got Quicken Loans and I'm working in a cube answering the phones. They're like, "No, you ain't gonna do that." So I ended up doing it, and I'm still in the business, but just doing it much differently than that. But it's hard to rein us in.
It is.
Yeah.
And I've told her this, and I've told other people this. The greatest sense of independence you will ever get is being offshore in a boat. And there is no greater sense of independence than being offshore in a boat by yourself.
Yeah.
Because there's nobody else there. There's nobody to help you. There's nobody to fix anything. It is up to you.
Silence.
And it's silence. And
it's a beautiful thing.
It
Freedom.
is. It is.
Yeah.
And, that's kind of totally, that feeling was there in a small company because I had the ability to kind of manipulate some of it. It's totally gone in a large structure.
Yeah.
Even though the pay is better, you've got the better benefits, all of these other supporting facets are there. But at the end of the day, it's not just about the pay.
Right.
And I think that's kind of what pushed me away from there, because you could be the guy that's offering 1% or the guy that's offering 150%. And at the end of the year, you get the same pay, the same raise, the same everything as this guy sitting here on his thumb.
Yeah.
And once she kind of started to get to the position of where she was making enough that we could kind of sustain on that, it gave me the ability to take a step back out of that structure and kind of incorporate myself to what she was already doing, to build it even further.
All right.
And that was awesome.
All right, Lindsay, let's talk. Because we've got that kind of takes us up to here. Because now let's go. Growing up in Palatka, what's some of the first things you did? And obviously, waiting tables was some of the last things you did before getting into real estate.
Yeah, so I grew up. My cousin. Obviously, our cousins are always our first best friends. She had, she had, 10 to 12 horses at all times. So I grew up riding horses, going to the Palatka Horsemen's Club. My mom's a beach fanatic, just outdoors, what Florida really is, and not the tourist part. So I grew up riding horses, graduated the same year he did from the same high school. I moved to Louisiana for about 6 years. I became a mom at 19, a mom of 2 by 23, and I was a stay-at-home mom then. So I never really had a chance to go to college or...
Someone's phone ringing?
Probably.
Yeah, that's it.
Sorry.
Sorry about that.
That's it.
So since I was a mom at such a young age, I never really went to college, started a career. And then in 2016, when I got divorced, I was like, oh crap, I have nothing except 2 kids that I gotta provide for.
Right.
So I started serving, and when my now 10-year-old started school, I started substituting on top of serving at night. And then when we got married, we got married in March of 2020. So our wedding got canceled, and we got a COVID baby.
Yeah, I saw that in your bio, March of 2020. So you just answered my question then.
Yeah.
I just wanted to say that we did have the kid 10 months after we got married.
Listen, we got married 2 months before we found out we were pregnant. So it was kind of like, good thing we got married when we did. So I was still serving, and I have back issues. I told my husband, I'm like, look, I can't do this anymore. It's killing me. He goes, okay, so you have 2 options. You can continue to work and be in misery, or you can go home and you can do something that's going to further you. He goes, if you get off of working, you're not going to sit on the couch and eat Cheetos and be lazy. You're going to do something.
That is an actual quote.
Yes. Yes.
I think it was a little bit more lines along of, if you want to keep doing that, then shut up and stop complaining. Or do this.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. So I was like, okay. His mom is in real estate. She's been in real estate since 2017. So I was like, why not? My mom tried it, but it was, God, I think it was around 2004 or something when things were really starting to go bad with the mortgage industry. So I was like, well, it's a few weeks course or a month's course or however you can do it because it's on your own time.
Right.
So I took the course. I finally got my license in July of 2021. And it's history. I mean, I started with my mother-in-law at Century 21 in July of 2021. And I was there for about 10 months. And then in May of 2022, I moved to Momentum, and my whole life changed.
Yeah.
It's been breathtaking. It makes me emotional just thinking about it.
Let's dig into that a little bit. So you did have a pseudo mentor. Your mother-in-law was there. What would you? I mean, she just sort of was she doing really well, or just kind of an average agent, or what?
So she had a full-time job in Northrop Grumman.
Okay.
So she kind of just did it, when someone came up to her and said, "Hey, I'm looking to sell my house." She wasn't full-blown into it,
right?
Because she was, working 60 hours a week already. So when I went to Century 21, when you pass your state exam and you take that class, yeah, you learned a little bit, but you don't really learn.
Right.
I needed education. I needed people teaching me what to do, when to do. Chris Moore, I say this every time I talk to someone. When I went to Momentum Orientation, he says, if you are a realtor and you are bored, you are doing real estate wrong. And for some reason, that has stuck with me.
Resonated with you.
Yes.
Interesting. If you were in real estate and you were, how do you say that you were bored?
Mm-hmm. You're doing real estate wrong.
Right. What did you take from that statement? What was he saying to you as you interpreted it?
So just because I may not be actively working with a buyer or seller, there's 1,000 other things that you can be doing. You can be getting on YouTube, watching the best agents on how they do an open house. Or you can, go door knocking. I used to love door knocking. Holly and I, our other partner, her and I, the first house we ever door knocked on was a sale. There's just so many different things.
That motivates you instead of doing 100 doors.
Not get to the 100th one, but the first one out of that 100.
Yeah.
And it was a $250,000 lot, vacant lot on the St. Johns River.
Yeah. So from what and correct me if I'm wrong, from what I'm interpreting, your vision of real estate, you just saw this low entry of hey, take this 60-hour course, right? Is it 60-hour, whatever? Yeah, whatever. And get licensed. Low level entry. I can do this from home, which made it even lower.
Absolutely.
So you're like, okay, I did. But then, okay, what's the next step? Well, okay, I got to join a brokerage because my mother-in-law already belongs to Century 21. So when you walk in the door at Century 21, do you find, was there a lot of discovery? Did they, and as I mentioned before, we always talk about brokerages here because I think it's so important to be with the brokerage that fits your way you guys want to do business.
Absolutely.
There's a lot of different ways you can do this business.
Yeah.
So to find the one that clicks with you. So when you walked in there, and of course your mother-in-law, she's at Northrop Grumman all day long, so it's not like the two of you are tagging along. What do you do to start learning about real estate and what a real estate agent's actually supposed to be doing when you're doing it full time?
Yeah, so I did floor duty, and don't get me wrong, Century 21's great, but it's not a place for new agents who don't know what to do, who don't have the past clientele for the referrals and everything. There's some amazing agents there. But for someone like me, I need someone to text me every day, like John Brooks. He'll put on our momentum page an inspirational quote. I need someone to be like, hey, Lindsay, get off the couch. Stop eating those Cheetos.
I'm gonna have you pull the mic just a little bit, just because I'd hate after the show to realize I didn't tell you that. Okay, good.
You're good.
All right.
But no, I think Century 21's a great company. There's some amazing people there. It just wasn't a right fit for me.
Well, was it necessary in let's say Century 21 or just that brokerage? As soon as brokerage is in Palatka, they just said, at some point they just got this core group of agents that just matured there, and they're not thinking about this green agent coming in.
No, and I love it. When I moved from Century 21, our partner Holly Parham, mother-in-law, she worked with Madison Beal at Century 21, and that's how we got into momentum. And when we met Maddie to talk about moving, she goes, Lindsay, what do you want? And I was like, truthfully, I just want to be able to go buy my kids shoes whenever they need shoes. I don't want to have to worry about picking up another shift or anything like that.
Right.
So we moved to momentum, and it's truly just been life-changing.
Yeah. I want to get into your mind a little bit that first, if you want to call it the first 10 months. Because I think a lot of people, no one grows up and says, I want to be a real estate agent. I mean, I think there's a couple people now because obviously I've had some really, Maddie's obviously as young as she is.
Amazing.
Someone got her looking at it really early and then she's caught on. But for the most part, most real estate agents, it's after they've done something else and life took them down this path. So they don't really have, and I imagine at this time, did you even own a home at this time? No. So so you don't even have your own personal experience, let alone, one transaction. You're going in there and you're like, what is this real estate all about? How does this business actually work? How do you, basically you're feeding yourself. You've got to go out and plant the seeds.
I'll be honest with you. When I took the course, I just took it because I kind of had to find something to do. I never in a million years dreamed that I would have the passion and the love and just the desire to do this every day. It was never something I really thought would turn into this. I'm really not one that when I pick up something, I continue with it. So I think it shocked everyone, including...
Well, until you find something you're passionate about.
Yeah.
If you don't love what you do...
Yeah.
Right? So this actually brings it to... I got this book, Grit, and if you have not read this, I recommend getting this book by Angela Duckworth. Because I want to write a book with all the transcripts that I have all the agents on, because I really think real estate agents need to have a level of grit.
Absolutely.
The reason why 80% fall out is because they don't have that level of grit or choose the wrong brokerage. And, again, grit comes in. Do you fight through it? Find the right brokerage for you? Do you search out and go, it's all pulled out. To me, I put it under grit. But I break grit down into three things. I call it the LLC. Love, laughter, and consistency. It sounds, and this was why I went to this topic, because I've been bringing this up recently, is it sounds like you found a love in this.
Yes.
Yeah. Tell us why you love real estate.
So normally when people think of real estate and they're thinking of going into it, it's like, oh, I'm going to make all this money. I'm going to do it for me. I'm going to do it for me. My first sale ever, the buyer, they were renting, and they were not renting in the greatest of areas. And the neighbor across the street didn't even have a front door, and they were videoing kids.
Oh my God.
They're her kids. And just knowing with each sale, I mean, sellers and buyers, they all have different reasons for purchasing or whatnot, but I'm actually helping them. And I think because I've always wanted to help. Originally, I wanted to be a nurse or something. But just knowing that she's not worried about her kids being videotaped. Or, we had a closing yesterday where this veteran had fallen on hard times, and he's been sleeping in his car for 3
That's unbelievable.
years.
Yeah.
And we actually got him into one of our listings where it was fully furnished. It's not a brand new mobile home, but it's got a brand new roof, brand new AC, brand new water heater. Nothing is going to break on him anytime soon. And
it's his.
It's
It's
his.
his. And he moved in with food in the fridge,
Yep.
with spices in the pantry. I mean,
The sellers even gave him $300 for the water deposit to turn on.
yeah.
Wow.
He didn't pay for any closing costs. He paid for the 4-point inspection, which cost $100, and that's it.
Right.
Yep.
Matt went out there and fixed a board that came up on a WDO. He put lattice around the back porch. That is a great thing about working with us. If something comes up and there's something that, something small or something that you can't do or you don't have, the funds for, if we are able, we love going out there and helping people just for this reason.
Yeah.
Because I think the average agent, they sit behind the computer and the desk, and they don't have the joy of seeing it the way that we do.
Yeah. And I think this goes back. I put a lot of stuff under grit, but I think this has to do when you're able to go out and some agents have made it a clear statement, and you probably have this statement in your head, but you just didn't say it. Is you're finding there's opportunities that come up that you can really wow the client. And you've only been doing it a few years, but it sounds like you don't get to the production that you're doing without the people you've dealt with referring you
Absolutely.
those next deals. You're out there marketing and trying to find someone you have never met before.
Yeah.
But if you don't have those people that you've worked with in the past being your cheerleader, you're on a slow growth process.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
He had a deal, I think it was Jennifer Fields.
Mm-hmm.
She closed, and he got her a deal of a lifetime.
She moved in with $50,000 worth of equity.
Wow.
Yep.
Yeah.
On a $200,000 house.
In a house, not a mobile home.
Right. Right.
But yeah, no, I mean, I love what we do.
Yeah.
And she started off by saying this, this is so much more than a financial transaction.
Yes.
This is exponentially more than that.
Well, and this question goes to both of you. Is it the process that you love? Particularly if you can really kind of narrow it down, you may never actually thought about this because you're going through the process and you just enjoy it. Is it the reaction of the people, or to be able to help other people like this veteran that you have?
Absolutely. So, and I tell almost everyone when we go to the closing table, we spend at least 30 days talking to these people almost daily. They become like a best friend. And so we get to learn about their story and their struggles and helping them get to the finish table. It just brings so much joy. I tell everyone it's like a horrible breakup because then we stop talking every day.
All right. So so that's the love part. Or Matt, do you want to make a comment on the love part? Why? I mean, you've been full time into this now.
8 months.
8 months now. What is the high that you get? Why are you enjoying?
Probably the driver for me is it's a combination of helping families get something they never thought they could attain. But probably a secondary part of that is us being as good as we're at in the field that we're at, that what we can do for those people just because of the contacts we have, the knowledge we have, and the things that we can forewarn them of, is being such a SME subject matter expert on those that we can give them so much more leverage compared to other people. And I think just having that confidence and that knowledge in that means the world.
Talk a little bit about, because I'm going to use a phrase a friend of mine uses, the Swiss Army knife of connections.
Right.
I'm going to cut that out for Tom. My friend of mine uses that. You're a Swiss Army knife of connections. But having grown up in the area, knowing a lot, and you guys probably don't even really think about it because these are just people that whether you met in a restaurant or people you know, and you're like, oh, hey, I got a problem. Hey, John can help that. And he's in your Rolodex.
Exactly.
But how that actually gives you so much credibility as an agent, to have that Swiss Army knife to help with all these whatever issues come up.
It's invaluable. It is.
Yeah.
You know, if somebody comes up, asks for appraisal, hey, you know, we've got 2 or 3 guys that do appraisals or electrical repairs or plumbing repairs or whatever it may be. You know, it's not guys that we're looking up in a phone book, right, that might give you a call back in 2 months when they get a slot open. It's guys that, you know that, and we like to call it have skin in the game, right?
Yeah.
You know, it's somebody local that I know that I've got a relationship with that if they screw up, we can hold them accountable. And that's what we need.
Yeah.
Because I don't want some Joe Blow going in there that I don't know that I can't hold accountable for something that, you know, he or she does.
Or you know, it just made me think is that guy that, you know, you can call and say, hey man, I know you're busy today. We're closing tomorrow. I need to get this done. Can you come over after work and fix this? I'll get you a 6-pack of beer and, you know, afterwards and
whatever it is.
Yeah. And it gets done.
Exactly. Because at the end of the day, I mean, to us, this really isn't about a commission or a paycheck.
Yeah.
I mean, it's great. You know, we have to feed our families. We have to provide for ourselves. But that's not why we do it. I mean, I'll never forget the first year that she did it. She walked out of the tax office crying, just absolutely crying, because she realized she spent more in that first year, way more than what she even made. You know, and we were at a net deficit.
Right.
So we've since obviously grown from that point, but it's been an awesome path. It really has been.
Go ahead.
Yeah, and so when it comes to, you know, the contractors that we know, I have a little black book. Our inspection company, we actually graduated high school with them, Kayla and Austin Bradley, and they actually worked with her father-in-law doing inspections for years before they started their own company. And then we have a neighbor that used to work for, Clayton Homes? And, you know, I have a seller that she needed some paneling for a mobile home replaced. Call our neighbor. He can get basically anything that you need. We just have connections just because we have been there.
We'll speak on the connections part. So just to an agent who may be listening, you guys are kind of fortunate enough that, you know, you've grew up in the area. You know, it's that small town feel. Everybody's looking after, you know, kind of knows everybody else's business and everything, but looking after, you know, helping each other out. Oh, I can help you out. Yeah, great. You know, buy me lunch or whatever.
Right.
For a new agent getting into this business, to spend some of that time, like you said, the statement of if you're bored, you're not doing it correctly. One of those things you should be doing is trying to find some of these handyman, whatever, because there's so many different things, calling on other agents. Who are you using for this and that and the other thing, just so you start to build your Rolodex and go have coffee with some of these people to get to know them. How, you know, I mean, what would you recommend to that new agent, and how important it's really been to your success?
I'll let you answer that one.
Yeah, I mean, business is 100% about relationships. 100%. If you don't have relationships, you will fail. You cannot do everything on your own. And if you don't reach out and start making those connections, it's just not sustainable. You know, we've started since day one gathering contacts, you know, building rapport with them. And again, like I said, everywhere from plumbing repairs to electrical, because when a time comes, if you don't show a sense of urgency and have somebody on hand and ready, your clients will not be impressed. And it's not going to behoove them.
It's a reflection of us as well.
Yeah.
The next, I call it so that we were talking about love and led into that. The next part of my LLC is laughter. And I call it laughter because I think we go through life and, you know, I imagine, you know, you talked about going offshore in your boat, being way offshore. And, I'm sure there was one time, I can only imagine, you went to start the engine again and, it didn't crank up right away.
Or ran out of gas.
And you're like, oh my God, Lord, what are you doing to me?
You know, quick story on that. This is that 16-foot semi-dory I was telling you about.
Right.
and it's got a 25 horsepower 2-stroke tiller handle on it. Me and Buddy were out 30 miles doing some sea bass fishing in the wintertime. Decided to come back in, and the carburetor's messed up. And actually had to take the cowl off the motor, rebuild the carburetors while we were offshore because I had all the tools in the boat, put the carburetors back on to get the motor fired up, and bring it back in.
Sweating the whole time.
Yeah.
That's the thing going to start. But that's grit.
Yeah.
Most people would just avoid that situation. I'm
Right,
not
or
going
say,
30 miles off
"What do
shore
I
with
do?"
a 25 horsepower engine.
Yeah.
But we laugh about that now.
Yeah.
You laugh about that moment was a lot of stress on you. Like, no one really wants to call the Coast Guard. Maybe you're lucky someone's out there to tow you in, maybe.
Oh.
But has there been a moment that you've been in, Lindsay, where something has gone awry in the transaction, maybe just a customer's just, we've all come across some semi-hostile customers that don't really give whether real estate agent or mortgage person any credibility, type of thing, and they kind of say some things or don't treat you well. Let's put it that way. But something that's really like punched you in the gut where you almost were like, am I doing the right thing?
Yep.
Because I think a lot of real estate agents if you haven't hit that point, you haven't been in real estate long enough, where something's just gone awry, a deal blows up, falls out, or something, really kind of sets you back. But then you step back and you laugh about it today.
I'm trying to think. So when I think it was in 2023, there was multiple offers on a nursery, like a plant nursery, right down the road from us. And we got into multiple offers. We did not win. But I had called the agent, a certain day. She goes, how did you know the deal just fell apart? Send me a contract. Like, oh, crap. Yeah. So the buyers, it was a daughter, a father, and the sister of the father. And I guess the sister of the father has purchased like 30, 40 houses. So she's a lot. So she knows the contract stuff.
Mm.
I don't really know the contract stuff. I didn't at that point. And she kept sending it back to me. You need to fix this. You need to fix this. And I'm just like,
just let it in.
I looked at my husband. I'm like, I can't do this. I can't do this. It's like, because it makes me look horrible.
Right.
Eventually, they got it and everything worked out, but
right.
It's embarrassing.
Right.
Because the contract, it's so important, obviously.
She diminished you to a point where you were like, do I want to deal? Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. It definitely made me question it. And I'm the type of person, if I don't get it done correctly the first or second time,
mm-hmm.
I'm ready to give up.
Right.
But that scenario definitely had me questioning it that night.
So since then, though, how many contract classes have you been to?
I don't do classes.
Mm-hmm.
What I do is I'll get on YouTube
mm-hmm.
and I'll watch how they go through it. But I mean, I've written so many by this point. I can breathe through them.
Right. Well, because obviously anyone, I think Matt and I would just be, well, okay, all right, you dealt with that really bad
mm-hmm.
person. If we were coaching you, go learn the contract. You've learned how to do everything else. Learn how to read the contract upside down is what they basically tell you, right?
Yeah. And I mean, really, to be honest, every transaction has got one of those. I mean, the carburetor in the boat kind of scenario, every single transaction's got one. It's just how you react.
Yeah.
If you sit there and you're scared about what's going to happen and you drop a bolt in the ocean, you're done, right? Same thing with that contract. If you screw it up and it doesn't go through right, it could be losing that deal.
Yeah.
But it's just staying confident, making sure you get it done, taking your time, and just double checking yourself, making sure everything's good. You cover all your bases. You get your inspections ordered on time. You make sure you're getting the right inspections. Just all of it. But
that's what I feel. They talk about the computers of the world or whatever replacing the real estate. I don't believe a real estate agent can be replaced. Because every transaction's different. The person selling houses here at Jack's Beach, if we threw them into Palatka and the things that you guys have to deal with in different transactions,
they couldn't walk the property in high heels. I can tell you that.
So in the negotiations, right? I mean, it's like the art of the deal. I mean, you're expecting after the inspection, they're going to come back. It's natural. How am I going to deal with? How am I going to react to it? Because obviously, I think that's a big part of a real estate transaction, is like how to handle the negotiations from that. How is that? Tell us how it evolved. And I imagine the two of you probably worked together a lot of times on how are we going to respond to this?
Yeah, so we actually were up until midnight, talk about grit, writing an email for a contract. It's actually our sellers.
Not even our side of it. We're doing this negotiation for the other agent.
So, and this is, another thing about it being really important to choose your realtor and your lenders wisely. If your realtor recommends a lender, it's not because they're getting money off of it. It's because they've worked with them and they trust them.
Right.
We were supposed to close like 2 weeks ago, and the lender is like not even giving us updates at this point.
Because they had chosen their own lender.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I'm sorry, I totally forgot where the question was going. Repairs.
Well, just the negotiations, because I think to me it's one of those top 2 or 3 things an agent does, and how you react to it. Like you said, you're creating an email. Some agents get all personal, and they their egos get involved and so forth. And a lot of times, I think when the request comes back, hey, we want these things fixed, you need to just take a step back for a moment.
It's not your house.
It's not your house, right? How do I keep this deal? How do at the end of this, at my next move, how do I keep the transaction going forward?
Right.
So what we really do, and this is a great thing to have him along with me, is because he knows the inside of homes. He really knows what's really important, and that's what you have to explain. Mm-hmm. As long as we have a clear 4-point, if insurance says it's okay, then it's okay. If you're going to have to update the counters, well, that's your personal preference. There's nothing wrong with the counters there. When you hear there's a leak, okay, it could be a tiny leak. You have to really just talk to them down to earth and explain to them what is really an issue and what is something that's really not an issue.
Well, I imagine, Matt, you jump in a lot. That's like,
Yes.
that's going to cost you $300 to fix that. Yeah. And I've got somebody who will do it for you and just get it done.
We had a closing 2 weeks ago. This was a cash transaction, super easy.
Oh, God.
And we ran into way more repairs than we thought we were going to run into. I mean, we were $5,000 for a roof. We were almost $6,000 for electrical because they found cloth wiring in there. There was glass fuses, and I mean, we were to the end of it where we've had all these repairs done. The sellers have got a tight budget, right? This is their final home they're buying. They're retiring in it. They need every bit of equity out of this they can, so they're moving in, and they're tapped out, right? They don't have any more. The buyer's coming in, and she's tapped out because she's moving in from way out of state, so all of her funds are going to be tied up between the offer and moving stuff.
Right.
And it got to the point to where, we were having to go in there and do some of the small water leaks, behind the sinks and fixing stuff like that, or disconnecting electrical stuff to get it to pass for insurance. But it's the amount of things that can come up. Yeah. Is unbelievable.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I think you just, that's amazing. My wife had a review. The person said that, she was still picking the weeds in the yard, in the flower beds, even after the contract was done. Where I think like you said, a lot of agents, I got the contract, we're done.
Absolutely.
And they let those weeds. She was still out there picking. They actually, someone, the buyer, so I couldn't remember which side it was that mentioned it. The fact that you're like, they're tapped. The only way we are making this as the Parham team is to actually go in there and fix some of these things ourselves.
And there's almost all of our deals are like that. I remember one of my first deals, we had a WDO underneath a mobile home, and Taylor Douglas, he was the listing agent. He goes, listen, they're, the sellers are out of town. They won't give us a clear WDO until this is cleaned out. So I stuck him climbing underneath the mobile home. I think it was.
I got a guy for that.
Yeah. It was just a few pieces of board underneath the home, that had old damage. But because it was a WDO, it had just a freaking board.
It's a box. Yeah, it was checked off, and it had to be unchecked. But
just stupid stuff like that, like seriously. Silly stuff that comes up, where you get someone, from Jack's Beach, walking around in a suit and, $5,000 shoes or something, they're not going to climb underneath a mobile home.
They're not all like that. They're
And you would be so surprised.
well, I don't think I would crawl underneath there either. So
Well, and it's not just that. We get calls all the time. I can't believe you answered. We've tried to reach 3 or 4 different agents, and no one answers the dang blasted phone.
yeah.
Or call you back.
That's what always amazed me.
Yes.
Is obviously you go to any of these trainings, the first thing is like just answer the
your
phone.
phone.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm putting a contract in. Just got an executed contract 2 days ago on a $350,000 home, and we were talking to her a couple days ago, and she sent me a message that said, I'm so glad I worked with you guys. I'm so glad I called y'all. I spoke to 4 other agents before I even talked to you, and none of them called me back.
Yep.
Now, I've been working with her for probably 6 months now, so it's been a process. We had to get credit repaired. It's another VA loan. We hooked her up with some lenders here in town that got her credit repaired so they could kind of get on the track. Because the house they're living in right now, the woman has dialysis 2 or 3 days a week. So God bless her for dealing with that. And then she goes home and she says that she can't even stand in the kitchen because there's boards missing on the floor and she's going to fall through.
Oh my God.
She's got her kid there. There's mold in the house. The landlord refuses to do anything with the home.
Yeah.
And they're just in
misery.
Just absolute misery.
Yeah.
And again, it's being able to take people from a situation like that and kind of help orchestrate that to now they're moving into a house with a waterfront view so they can go fishing off the back porch.
Yeah.
What sort of transformation is that?
Yeah. That's awesome.
And to be able to be a part of that is just
It's amazing.
No, I think you guys are going to, just hearing your story and your mindset on life, you are going to reap the whirlwind. If you're adding value to people, as Lord says, teach them to fish, whatever. You guys are doing that. You're making things happen for people, and it's just going to continue to happen. Positive things happen for you guys. That's just awesome. Consistency. What have you developed over in this? That's the third part of our LLC, consistency, and I imagine it's changed for you over time.
Yeah.
What are you doing? What do you think are you doing today consistently? What's something you try to do, whether it's every day or every week, in your business? Because there's the referral business, but now you got your mom and your husband are involved in business. There's 3 of you, so there's some systems need to be developed.
Yes.
What are some of those things that you have worked on and developed that you're either consistently doing or trying to consistently do in your business to keep moving it forward? Because you always want to attract that new customer into the thing. You can get referrals. That's great. That's really great. But you got to throw some new people into the pot. Yeah.
Yeah. So I think the number one thing for new referrals is social media. Like the horse video that you were talking about. I really, really started noticing a increase in the phone calls that I was receiving after I really started posting, all my crazy stories, like getting chased by freaking geese at a showing.
Or the camel.
Yeah, and then there was a bull loose in the backyard. Just all kinds of crazy stuff.
Right.
Like, there's always something new in real estate because nothing stays the same. But social media is huge. And then John and Brittany talk about the follow-ups. I try to... For instance, we did a Christmas, thing. Was it reviews or no? If you bought with us in October, November, December, we bought you a real Christmas tree.
Yeah. Come down to the local Ace and pick it up. It's
Right.
on us, but
it's a local company
it was
as well.
something to it,
Yeah.
Like you said, it was a local company. It's a real tree. It's
Right.
something to it.
And then for Valentine's Day, we did. If you gave us a review, or if you bought with us from January to, I think it was February 10th,
Something.
we gave you Valentine's Day dinner on us. Well, it turns out they didn't want to have it on them. They wanted to have it with us.
Yeah. So it was a double date.
That's cool.
Yeah. And they were actually from West Palm, and I became really close with them.
Right. Cool.
She's the horse girl, and she got the chicken, and they bought my grandma's house. So I really got to know them. But it's just the follow-ups, and then we just did one for St. Patrick's Day.
Yep.
We're so lucky to have you part of our business and send out a dollar scratch off.
It's just
Right.
touching.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Touch.
It sounds well. I don't know. I mean, imagine John and Brittany have listened to Brian Buffini, but it sounds like Brian Buffini or the other one, the Ninja. Oh, the Ninja. I don't know if it's Ninja Selling or something like that. But Brian Buffini talks about like having events, or in this case, you're having just with a little contest, whatever it is. You're going back and recognizing those people. But
Yes.
I think Buffini's into the he recommends, and if you're still small, to actually maybe do it with several other agents where everyone brings in their past clients and you have a barbecue or something.
Right.
Yeah,
Yeah.
like Demi Judd, one of my really good friends who you've had on here as well. She does clientele events. Caitlin Blauser, I can't say her last name. But there's a lot of people with momentum where John and Brittany, they started with clientele events. We've talked about that, and I think Holly is wanting to start one this year, but we haven't gotten quite that far into it. But I don't think what, our past clients realize is, we've touched their lives, in one way or another, but they've also touched ours.
Yeah.
There's people that we'll never forget, like my MS buyer and now seller, moving from out of state. She moved here on 21 different medications and to find the best doctors, and now she's leaving with an implant and off of almost all of her medications.
Yeah.
It's stories like that truly gets to you.
Yeah. Let's transition to the move to momentum.
Okay.
Because you were very passionate about how that really changed your whole vision on the business.
Absolutely.
And I wrote down here, because you mentioned coming out of the tax office after her first year and realizing, 'cause John and Brittany, at least I remember John, maybe I can't remember Brittany exactly saying this, but John is really big on it's not how many transactions you did, it's like how much money you walk away with.
Yeah.
Are you doing things efficiently and running your business, not blowing money on this? Because I think like any small business owner, they blow so much money in their initial years on advertising and trinkets and trash and whatever that doesn't actually give them a return. So he's big on that. So tell us, what immediately did you see? You met with Madison, who said, "Why don't you come over and talk to John and Brittany?" Is that
Yep. So after that meeting with Madison, Holly and we talked to Brittany, and we joined Momentum. And I think one of the main things that I attribute to my career is all the training they provide. Because if it wasn't for Anna Cougar, who talks about different scenarios and resolutions to those scenarios. And then you have the top producing agents, coming on, like Brett Neeson and the Jack's Listing Sisters. They all they do a Zoom and they give you what they've done and what's worked for them. John says, why are you making up your playbook when you can copy someone else's playbook?
Exactly.
There's just so many amazing people at Momentum, and you can't replace that.
Yeah.
And the fact that they're giving us value, that's just amazing.
All right, I'm going to put you on the spot a little bit. Can you think of, because I can imagine these conversations, and I've seen John post some of them, or everybody on their working on their Zoom or whatever, just something that someone said that just hey, we're doing this, or we did this, something that you're just like, wow, just like, you're like, whoa, I never even thought about it, and maybe even implemented it into your business and got a return from it.
Oof.
Mailers.
Yeah.
I mean, we just got a listing off of that.
Hold on, no, I'm brain dead.
You were farming a particular neighborhood, or what?
No, just reaching out to past clients with their mailers.
Yeah. So the person that our sale from door knocking, she's one of our neighbors, and she stopped by my house because we have a 4-year-old that freaking slings baseballs and almost hits cars going by. And she just stopped, and we were chit chatting, and she was like, I was thinking about possibly getting something bigger, and obviously I want to use you, but I want to stay in this neighborhood. I want to, get on the river. And I was like, okay. I did up a little mailer, sent it. I got on GIS so I could get their name and their address, because I'm not rich and got all these other apps like all these other agents do, like RedX or whatever it is. So I sat down there with the GIS going through each house, and if they live out of state, I sent one to that address and the one to the East Palatka address, and we got a few emails out of it.
Yeah.
Nothing set in stone.
So you just said, hey, I have a buyer
Yes.
who's looking for your size home and wherever in this area. Are you interested in selling?
Yes. This is what she's looking for. This is what she's moving from. Here's the difference. And because, agent, you get mailers all the time from tree companies or whatever. So I wanted them to think, okay, this is really legit. And we live in the neighborhood, so I used to have this big banner in my front yard, so they know my name anyways. But we didn't want them to think that we were just scouting to just get their listing. We really wanted them to know that we actually have a buyer, and a cash buyer at that. And we got a few calls and emails, but nothing set in stone just yet. But, I mean, you do, like, those little things, they actually make
I'm gonna give you a little tip. And any agent listening right now, because it's come to fruition to me that this is not happening enough.
No.
But if you called me, now I'm not saying no other lender would do this, because I think they would if they were asked. The question is, do they have the marketing department to actually execute it in an efficient, professional way?
Yes.
That's the challenge. But if you called me and said, hey, I've got this neighborhood. There's 300 homes. Someone wants to buy in this, this size or whatever it is, just like you were talking about. We would put together, whether that was a letter, a postcard, or whatever.
Yeah.
And send it, create it all. Obviously, you'd proof it. We would just co-brand it with you.
Absolutely.
And it would go out. And I don't think enough agents to go on my little soapbox for 10 seconds here. Agents are popping around to lenders. I see some. I know you use Catherine. I think a lot, if I recall correctly, looking at your numbers.
Barnes and Palatka, she's amazing too.
I see too many of the top agents. When I look down at their transaction, there's 1 next to the loan officers that they've used. If you are not leveraging the loan officers and their company to be doing some of this type of marketing, because at the bank we got these people. I go up there and say, hey, I need St. John's Golf and Country Club. I need all the addresses. They have that within minutes. All this technology out there, they will do that stuff for you. We have to split the cost with you, in as far as like when we mail it out or whatever. But really, when it comes down to, I was sending out. You can see those magnets right there. Those are $1.50.
Yeah.
Okay.
Hit you up on one of those.
Yeah. You send out Palatka High football schedule, whatever, type of thing. But if you aren't asking, you're not going to get, because I have to say we mention it a lot of times as loan officers, but I don't think the agents are getting it.
No.
Yeah.
And also the thing is, you're talking about a made lender. You got to realize the average agent, what did they sell last year? 4 homes.
I thought you were going to go that 74% didn't even sell a home. Yeah.
So when you're talking about even knowing how to do something like that, if you don't have a good brokerage that is giving you these ideas, or a lender that you stay in contact with, you're never going to know any of that. Right.
I think some of the big marketing things that could be being done that agents are missing out on. Again, if you're listening, take notes. The Krista Mashore, you see a lot of her advertisements. She talks about farming neighborhoods. Yeah, I've had her on the show. She talks about farming neighborhoods. You want to farm a neighborhood? Get with a lender, and now, if you're giving him deals, they have no problem co-marketing. Don't go ask a lender that you've never done a deal with to jump in and start spending every month with you. You've got to. But if you create a relationship, it just rolls back and forth. You're feeding each other, and then you get there's things like that to obviously cut your costs down.
Yeah, and Catherine does that with us.
You got to have leverage. You have to. And if you're not utilizing it, you're missing out.
Yeah. First Coast does a decent job out there. Those things are out there, and I think too many agents are worried about getting in my soapbox here. Oh, I gotta give you 3 because they're afraid something's gonna come back. Dude, something's gonna come back somewhere along the line. If one deal costs you your entire real estate career, maybe you
You
shouldn't be in
weren't
real
in
estate.
real estate
Yeah,
anyway.
exactly. Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. Because something's going to come back somewhere. You just need a lender that when something is going south, that they're calling you and saying, "Hey, we're not
Heads
going to be
up.
able to close this." I had last August had had a condo deal. That I've done deals in that condo complex before. That's how it got to me. Two lenders wouldn't do the deal in there for whatever reason, because I think some of the condo things have changed.
Yes, they have.
As far as what they'll allow. And the smart lender that couldn't approve them. She sent me over all the stuff. We had them closed 8 days later. They were closing.
Wow.
We had to extend it to 8 because they were basically at closing. But because she cooperated, she still saved face because she found a solution. Hopefully that real estate agent doesn't take it out on her. Hey, we decided that we're not going to do it. But I found you, and we closed it in 8 days. Everybody's happy.
That's all that matters.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Get the deal done.
Yeah.
You
Get
know,
the deal done.
there are different lenders, and we tell everyone this. Different lenders have different qualifications, all of this. We have Catherine Barker, we've got Kim Barnes, Delaney Bravo. There's a few of them that we work with. Like Kat, I don't think she takes anyone in a 580 credit score. Just reached out to Kim Barnes. He's calling her today.
Yeah, this is. I will tell you. You start to get south of south of 620, south of 600, south of 580.
Yeah.
Oof.
Well, it's like that one that we're doing right now. It's a manual underwrite. It's sub 600. But they're still looking at $300,000.
Yeah.
And it's just like you said. It's having the right person for the job.
Yeah.
For that condo.
Yeah.
The right lender for the gig.
Yeah. Right now, I think a lot of lenders don't mind it. If we go in, like I said, we start getting sub 6% rates, and I think if the frenzy goes on, they won't want it to, because they clog up pipelines. Is what happens. So the underwriters have to spend way too much time going through, like I said, a manual that's just a nightmare. But yeah, to know someone that is willing to do that.
Yes.
I've been in the business too long. I wouldn't say I'm a fan of that, and the bank really doesn't. Is not. They got enough business of people that are north of 620. I think we'll go with 600 on a VA loan. VA loan's much more forgiving. But anyway, you got to have those people in your pocket.
Yes.
You got to, that'll.
Well, and you got to realize too, in Putnam County, if we get someone pre-approved, 200,000, we're freaking ecstatic.
And that's another big deal for where we're at is the price points are so much lower.
Right.
The volume of deals that we have to do is exponentially higher.
Yes.
Yeah.
I mean, a lot of our deals are 160s, 200s, 210s.
Yeah.
I think you guys are planting the seeds though, because I think those numbers will double in the next 10 years,
Absolutely.
if not the next 5.
And that was the thought with staying in Palatka. I don't know if this is
I
where
was
you're
just
going.
about
Okay,
to
I'll
say that.
I'll let you finish.
So when I first got into it, and got to Momentum, John and Brittany, they always talk about farming. Pick your area. And I'm like, crap, Putnam counties, we're so freaking broke around here. But then I got to thinking about where St. Johns County is now. And we're already seeing St. Johns County and Clay County people coming to Putnam County. Yep. I want to stay where I'm at, because by the time it really starts to boom, my name will be up there because I'm going to work hard.
You're going to have a lot of past clients, and yes.
And I know the area better than St. Johns County.
Yeah.
Have I sold there? Yeah, I've sold in Flagler County too. But is it really
It's
my?
not home.
Yeah.
I relate that to these agents who come on who want to head to the Nocatee Ponte Vedra area, and they don't realize that there's offices out there with hundreds of agents.
Yeah.
And some of these ladies just do desk duty, just to hopefully someone walks in once a month, once every other couple months, and they can sell a home.
Yep.
But that only lasts so long. To me, I don't mind. I mean, if I'm not busy, whether it's or working a deal or whatever, you lose your game.
You do.
In it, and everyone wants to be out there.
Absolutely.
And by having this little corner of the world down there, and like you said, you stay in line long enough,
it's a sweet spot.
you'll be
And
100%.
we'll be set.
Well, you're going to be considered the expert. These small builders too are going to be calling you too, because you have all these people. Hey, we're building this community over here. Will you come represent? Some of these guys that don't, not like Dream Finders or the big home builders that don't have their own site agents. That's the kind of stuff that's going to be created out there.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And there are a few new subdivisions coming I think there's a DR Horton and a KV Homes.
Mm-hmm.
There's a guy that knocked on our door because on our Google business profile, I have it at our address because we sell in Palatka. And he goes, I don't know if this is where I'm supposed to be, but I'm at a house. I'm like, yep, that's me. And he passed out a pamphlet for a new subdivision going into Interlaken or Hawthorne or something like that. Like, oh, sweet, man.
For brand new homes and the mid twos.
Yeah.
Which is what we need.
We are so short in affordable housing.
I was going to say we need affordable housing in Putnam County.
Yeah.
Because, I mean, I bought my house when I moved over there in 2015 for $15 an hour. I mean, that's what I was making at my job.
Mm-hmm.
And no way I can afford that now.
Yeah.
He bought it for $80,000 too, and we're a block from the St. Johns River.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's like tripled its value.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
But it's there's no affordable homes, just isn't.
Yeah.
Some of these new constructions are getting there to where you're in the low twos and moving into a brand new home.
But that's only in Putnam County too.
Yeah.
Is there opportunities out there? One of the big real estate podcasts is Bigger Pockets, and the gentleman on there, he's big into like the manufactured home communities and buying them and so forth. Is there opportunities out there where you can get 5 or 6 acres and actually,
absolutely,
zoning, is it very difficult to get the zoning?
Yeah,
to have good rentals.
It's not super hard.
Yeah.
There was a time, just 4 or 5 years ago, there's quite a few of them when you could have came in and bought a lot of these, older 70s, 80s single wides, and they were selling with the land. This is not on rented land.
Yeah.
But with the land for $10,000, $15,000, $20,000 a pop.
Yeah.
And these places are going for $60,000 now.
Yeah, and I have an investor too.
Yeah, so it's not hard.
Mm-hmm.
Like I said, there's existing ones that people have worked into, and as far as getting land and splitting it, in Putnam County, R2 is easy to deal with. It's not hard to subdivide parcels, and there's really actually a pretty good ROI if you can come in and stand on your own 2 feet on it.
Yep.
Yeah. If you can get a 4-acre or 5-acre parcel, subdivide that out to 1 1/4 acres with an easement down the center. You bought it with one home on there. You've already got 1 home, 1 septic in there. You bring in another well, $6,000 a pop. You bring in a septic, you're looking at $12,000 to $16,000 a pop per septic. You can have a brand new double wide, dropped, placed with AC, everything on it, for about $110,000. So now you've got about $400,000 worth of investments there, and on top of whatever you put the property for, and you're looking at easily 2 1/4 per home.
Yeah.
Have you been working with clients who've gone out and purchased a lot and went down to Clayton Homes and haven't come in?
And this is outside of our spectrum, right?
Yeah.
This is always something. Again, this isn't about the commission to us. It's about helping families get into something. So something we always present to people like Clayton Homes. They've got an amazing program there. So you go in there, you find a lot of land you want. You find the home that you want, and again, we're out of the picture at this point, but you can point out, I want this home on this land, and you won't owe a penny until you've actually got the CO for that property. So you've had that house now for because it can take 6, 7, 8 months to get the land cleared, the septic put in, all the permits, the house dropped in.
So Clayton is either rolling like the taxes and everything into the purchase. And they're putting their veteran, or maybe they're doing an FHA loan, their whatever little money down payment, but they're putting all that into the deal.
For all of it until you get the CO.
And you're not doing it until you actually.
So you don't have 2 mortgages, while you're sitting there renting your home, because how much of a pain would that be, and how hard is that going to be for somebody?
Right.
Yeah.
So you can find a lot, put a house on it, get into it, and you don't pay until you actually step foot in the house.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, I do have an investor who's done exactly that. He bought a piece of property from me last summer on a canal in Bostwick. He split the property. Now it is, a small lot. And he's put 2 single wides on it. They're about to go active on Tarpon Boulevard in about 2 weeks. And so they're 3-bed, 2 baths, a little under 1,200 square foot on the canal. For about $180.
So waterfront.
So all right, so let me follow you. So he goes, he buys his property, gets it subdivided, into he puts 2 brand new single wides on them, and then he's turning around and selling them for $180,000 a piece.
So you've got waterfront property, $180,000 in a brand new home.
Yep.
If that's not affordable.
It's already got the tie downs. It's already. So
How much do you think he's got? How much has he got into it? 120. I mean, what did the manufacturer? What is a single wide manufacturer?
I think it was like $80,000 for a single wide.
Okay, and the lot probably did he even pay $20,000 for the double for the?
I think it was a little bit over 20.
Yeah. So $10,000 when you split it.
Yeah.
Yeah. So he's got 90 grand basically roughly. Oh, plus he had to develop it, right? Put this so he's probably 120, 30 grand into it.
Yeah.
Easy.
Yeah.
And you know, if you're not so focused on making $200,000 off each transaction, and you just make a decent chunk, then you can just keep that cash flow rolling and going
sell
into
it
the next
faster.
one.
Yeah. Well, I mean, yeah, I'm thinking, wow, as an investor, that's so it's actually very clean, and there's some steps involved because you got to get the permits and stuff. But I mean, how
it's not his first rodeo either.
As agents advising, you advised a lot. Are you getting some background on? I mean, how hard is it in Putnam? Like, for instance, these lots were on the water. Hey, we need to get the permit to put a septic and well in here. Is that really difficult?
No, as long as you know the setbacks, which I always. The Putnam County Property Appraiser's Office knows my voice by now. You know, I have the setbacks downloaded on my computer. So I can just send it to anyone, you know, on the property appraiser's website, the GIS, it gives you, you know, the length and the width of the lot. And you just, you know, you can either call the county or you can, you know, look at it yourself.
Right.
That's funny. It was actually the county that was calling me before the show started here, you know, because we've got a home that, so this home is stated that it's built in 1900. So back before 2000, Putnam County didn't pull a lot of permits for a lot of the structures there. So a lot of the older homes, there are no permits, no information, no anything on. And in some of these situations, whenever they do that, it just defers back to a zero, which is 1900. So this home was obviously not built in 1900, and insurance costs are astronomical because of this.
Right.
$10,000.
Yeah, $10,000 for kin insurance right now, which is insane.
Yeah.
For a stick home with a metal roof. So I'm working with the county to get an appraiser to get back out there. I'm getting them some inspection photos and stuff like that to reassess the age value. And you know, there's a lot of real estate agents that wouldn't even know.
Right.
To
I've never heard. Yeah. I mean, doesn't shock me that there's stuff that like they default back to 1900.
Right.
But like you're saying, I wouldn't even have thought about it. You got to get somebody out there to actually figure out when was this place built.
Right.
Yep.
The real age estimate. Yeah, because there was no permits on the house being built, so there is no proof. So we've got to get out there and you know how. Like,
when did the property tax change? They must have changed. How far do the property taxes go back?
Yeah. So like I said, before 2000, a lot of it was paper document, and a lot of that stuff wasn't uploaded. But
does someone have those files in Palatka?
From what I understand, a lot of them got.
I know one of the title companies in St. Augustine acquired all the old stuff when the county went digital. They took all that to digitize it, and then they still had the original paper. But one of the title companies actually,
Yeah.
So they're known to be able to be the person the title company go to when you have that really old home that hasn't changed hands in 60 years. Right? Yeah.
But no. So like all the uploaded documents are just blank. So there's nothing.
Wow. Yeah.
But anyways, we're going in there to get that gone through because it's realistically it's probably like a 1960s build, maybe 1980s.
I want to go back to the two lot things because I'm really interested because really for him he goes and he obviously you got to get the permits, right? You get but doesn't like Clayton Homes, they have people that come in and like will put those.
Yeah, they do all the work.
They do all.
They don't do anything. So you split the parcel. Once you got that done, now you say, hey, Clayton.
Yep.
Bill, go put in a home here, a home here. He files the paperwork.
Wells and the septic, everything.
He does the well. He does the septic. He does the AC. He does the foundation, die downs, everything.
And
clean.
You know what's so funny about this investor? I've been working with him for over a year now, and when he called me from my Google business profile, and he says, I'm looking for someone who's not going to bid against me when I go to put in an offer on a home. So I guess that agent he had worked with was bidding against him on a house that he was trying to purchase
through this agent.
Yes, and so that also goes back to the honesty and really pick who you work with wisely.
You would think there was a limited amount of land, right? This unique beach house that there's only comes up every once in a while, a house like that. So you could be, but go find another lot to buy.
Yeah, because that's really the genesis of it. It's all off the deal. If you can find the lot that's right, that's what matters.
Yeah.
And having agents that do that kind of stuff, because the investor's done a lot of the work to find that particular spot at that particular price.
Yeah, I mean, he does his own research.
Yeah.
I probably sold 5 to 7 of his properties last year, and now he's officially retiring, and he's ready to sell everything that he's bought with me. And he's a great guy.
Yep.
So what's the market over there right now? You said you're putting these 2 ones that he's done on the market this weekend. Yeah. So what kind of hang time are you actually predicting there? Are we seeing 60, 90 days on the market, or you think as these things are on the water they're going to go?
John Brooks has it right. When you price a home, you can sell a home if it's priced right, the advertisement and location.
Right.
Now this is in Bostwick, so it's kind of in the boondocks per se, but it's on a canal, and it's it's affordable.
Right. Yeah.
And I have Scott Ball. How do you say his last name? The real estate stenographer, Scott Galmick or something like that. He does all of my pictures, and he's absolutely amazing. Like, he makes my ad stuff look really good. Like, that's the best Snapchat filter ever. And as long as you have good pictures, a good price, we
had one. Yeah. We had a house in town that we put on the market above appraisal.
Yeah.
Had multiple offers, multiple contracts put in within 3 days.
Yeah.
So
and it fell through because the buyers decided to get a divorce after
they
got under contract.
We had another contract within 12 hours.
Yes.
Yeah.
Multiple contracts.
Right.
So
twice.
It's all about the open houses, the advertisement, the photos, the making it look good, reaching out to your local sphere,
Oh my God.
Silly videos. But it's just.
You want to do
it right.
I haven't told this story in a long time, but I saw this guy. He was from Montana, and Montana has these people from California that think they want to live in Montana, but they don't realize, like, there's areas like there's no cell service.
Yeah.
You actually should have a snow plow and everything else because you're out in the middle of nowhere. And he went out. He was. The story goes he was showing a house to these people like 20 miles out of town. So it's like they're out in the middle of nowhere. There's no cell service, whatever. And so on his way back into town, he just said, you know what? I'm going to do a video on living in Montana. So he literally just stopped on the side of the road. You could see the mountain, you imagine Montana is the Rocky Mountains behind him. The road just goes and then just disappears, right? And he goes on and goes, there's bears, whatever, right? You got the wildlife living in Montana, and he just goes on and talks about that video goes viral.
Yeah.
Okay. He goes on now, it's gotten him business. He was doing blogs already, and some book writer called on him, and they put his blogs together and wrote a book. So now he's like the guy.
Yeah.
A video on living in Palatka, the fishing, the opportunities that you're talking about. I'm surprised you guys flipped a home yet? I'm surprised you haven't found some
flips, but we are working on that.
This quarter, that's our goal.
Yeah. I'm surprised you dive into that, because I imagine there's some opportunity there.
He wants to do flips. I like a safety net. I like to, I like just doing the real estate. He really wants to do the flips and stuff like that. So I told him, just don't make us broke.
You get a mentor on that one.
Yeah,
Get
Chris
him-
Moore,
get him-
John
yeah.
Brooks, we're coming for you.
Listen, I'm not going in there blind.
Yeah. One of the first things my wife and I did after we got married was we flipped a house. We were living in Arkansas at the time. She was working for Alltel Wireless, and yeah, that was an experience. I have to say we broke even. We got some tax
That's all I
deduction.
want to do on the first one.
Yeah. It luckily a friend helped us with a possible money pit situation with it, and we discovered quickly what it was and fixed it inexpensively, thank God. But yeah, you could turn it. Let's finish up with just some for our listeners, some real estate advice, tips, whatever you want to call it. If you've got a girlfriend calls you, say, hey, I'm looking to get into real estate, tell me about it. What are some things you really need to explain to them? Because it's not all sunshine and roses. And I imagine you've run in, whether it was at Century 21 or even some people that joined Momentum, that are having a tough time right now. There's some agents that are really doing well.
Yeah.
Like even better than some past years, and then there's some other agents who are truly struggling right now.
Yeah, and so I just say, do you like your nights and weekends? If you do, it's not for you.
Yeah.
You have to work nights and weekends. I mean, like I said, we were up until midnight last night doing emails. You got to answer your phone. And there's times where, we got a board of, what we did last year, what we done, this year, what we done last month, what we done this month. And when that board starts getting, three pendings, we really start freaking out because, previously he had a job that could, support us, if I wasn't doing very well. And now it's scary.
Yeah.
Yep.
But, we have such a good work ethic, and we have the passion to support that work ethic that,
And I'll put it this way. We were at 3 active Saturday. We're at like 8 now.
Yeah.
So it happens fast.
Yeah.
It does.
Yeah. But
you
got some faith in that, right?
Well,
keep doing the things.
But you got to keep pushing.
Follow
Be ready to be hungry. You're gonna be hungry. You're gonna be hungry for a while.
It's not overnight. It takes a while.
Yeah, and you got to have somebody supporting you.
Yes, absolutely.
I couldn't have been in this without her, and she couldn't have been in this without me.
Yeah.
Especially starting out, because it was every single weekend. I did not have a day off for like. I still don't really
that's
get
the
a
one
day
thing I
off.
think people don't realize, and it's been my wife and I. Cause we met at work, and we both have lived. It's a 24/7 business. It doesn't mean you're working for 24 hours.
Correct.
You might not. You might have everything done, and at 8 o'clock in the morning, and you're like, hey, let me go get my nails done, whatever it is, and then all of a sudden 10 o'clock, someone's saying, hey, I want to go see a house at noontime.
Absolutely.
And then you're busy all afternoon. I think my wife was talking to somebody last night at 9:40 in the evening. And you got to be, when you're trying to get your business going. Now, when you get up and rolling, your business is going. You've got all, maybe you have some assistants or whatever, and you could start to set some parameters like, hey, after 8 o'clock, we'll talk about it in the morning. But how many times you've been counseling people at 8 o'clock at night, saving marriages sometimes?
Yeah. And real estate's not just being a realtor about homes. We talk about family. We talk about just life in general. But yeah, you're right. I mean, I start my emails sometimes at 4 o'clock in the morning, and if that's not when I go to the gym, because I can't go to the gym during the day because my phone does not stop.
Yeah.
And I answer. We went to the Bahamas, and he had a rough contract, and we finally got the clear to close, and he was on the phone for 2 days.
Yeah.
Getting the final few things going so she could finally close.
Yeah.
Every vacation we go on.
Now, I imagine John and Brittany hopefully have talked to you, because I think one of the challenges, you guys sounds like you're at that point where you're kind of at maximum capacity.
Yes.
Which I'm sure your mother comes in a little bit to help it out, because you guys are in the Bahamas, where she's helping. And if you don't have the trio of you, the 3 of you, you've got to have some other agents to help pick up some of the slack, so you can go and have a long weekend.
So, and I'll tell you where it all kind of started. This time last year, the busy season, I held 2 open houses Saturday, 2 open houses Sunday, and had 2 or 3 buyers each day as well. I came home by Sunday because, it's busy season. I'm by myself. I have no help. Came home and started bawling. And I told my husband, I was like, I can either be a mom or I can be a wife.
Right.
or no, I can either be a mom and a wife, or I could be a realtor, because I can't do both anymore.
Right.
It was just, I was done, and that's when he goes, well, you kind of made more than what I make all year in your first quarter. So
Let's talk about this.
Yeah.
And so then when he joined on August full time, I was expecting to have, some extra time off. Hell no. He gets just as busy as I do.
Yeah.
And we're still like scrambling for time.
Right.
And then his mom, she was right at retirement, like, oh, hop on the train.
Yeah.
And now, I mean, she's
out doing. So we had a miscommunication and some inspections this morning. We thought somehow or another that the same inspector that we used was going to be at 2 different houses at the same time. Turns out we got the wrong time. So it was supposed to be at 10 o'clock this morning. I was supposed to open the door. But, fortunately, we're up here to do this.
Yeah.
And she's still back there at home base, and she's able to go open the door for him, get him in.
Yeah.
So there's no disruptions there.
Yeah,
So
she helped.
Do you see yourselves maybe creating a little team? I mean, as business grows in Palatka, you guys are.
I don't know. Brokerage towards you?
Or even just some, because I think everyone hits their lid. They hit this lid. And if you don't have, whether it's a transaction cater or just an assistant, someone answering the phone for you, and hopefully diverting the whatever they need to you, what calls you actually do need to take versus others are just, hey, they take care of it, or hey, someone needs to be over there to get that over there inspection. I mean,
it's chaotic.
Yeah.
I mean, so I know, and especially John coming from him, he's shoving TC down our throat.
We have
we're
views.
still somewhat comfortable with it. I mean, we're looking at about 60 transactions per year right now. And we're still pretty good managing all those contracts by ourselves without a TC.
But organization is key.
Yeah.
But yeah.
Well, go back to the one thing that you had in the bio was systems.
Right.
You got to create the system.
You got to
and you're at the right place. There's a lot of smart people.
Yeah.
The Jack's listing system,
absolutely.
Michelle
but
over there,
and have TCs as well.
Yeah.
And
we're kind of in a different realm there because, again, going back to the value of our homes,
the price points. Yeah.
There's not really enough juice in that squeeze for all these different facilitating factors that some of these larger listings do have.
Yeah.
There's not enough in there to really kind of squish out. I mean, because we're already knocking down commissions a lot of times just to help out buyers and sellers.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And by the time you get through that, there's not another $500 or $1,000 in there for a TC, or for these other portions of it. So it is.
At some point, you're gonna have to make that leap across that.
Yeah.
Yes.
And,
and hopefully don't look back.
Yeah,
Yes.
and we're still trying to figure out
What
systems from when he joined. Because it was me for so long, and I'm a control freak. I don't want anyone to have anything. But
don't talk to my clients. I talk to them.
Well, no, not so much that. It's just I'm such a control freak. I don't want you to send out that email. I want to make sure what's in the email is what I want to send out in that email. But
that's where ChatGPT comes in. You make it sound like her.
Yeah. But
write this email as if Lindsay wrote it.
We're still figuring out things. We actually have a call with Brittany Brooks on Thursday. When she heard what we're doing, she's like, we gotta have a conference. She goes, y'all are all over the place. I'm like,
we know.
Yeah.
Well, I think that the great thing about it is you are, I wouldn't say you're fumbling. You're successful. You're fumbling forward at a high rate.
Rolling forward.
Yeah,
right,
you're rolling
right.
forward, and now when you start to get those systems, you'll start to polish it.
Yeah.
And then business will just start to
Yeah.
even
You can
grow
actually-
exponentially from there.
I told Brittany when we were talking about this, I said, look, I bullshitted my way all the way here. And I'm just going to have to continue to do
Hasn't
it.
stopped yet.
So, no, we're just very blessed and to have our brokerage. We're very blessed to have our family.
I want to talk to you again after. There's going to be a point where you're going to have to make this
Transition.
some sort of hire an assistant, transaction coordinator, or whatever.
Whatever it is.
And then after you evolve that and been doing that for some months and got this system down, because you were like so many agents that are successful. They reach this lid.
Yes.
Because they're gonna reach the lid, and then they got to make that gap. My wife's at this situation because that's why I bring it up a lot of times on the podcast. And getting the right good position, I think you're with the right people. What you learn, what you evolve for your business, and then what happens after you get that hopefully your business grows that much more, right?
Well, exactly, and it's just like small business.
On a timer.
Yeah. You know, there's a lot of small companies will hit 10 million gross, but there's a gap between that 10 million and $100 million revenue. And once a business can cross that bridge to get up there, the sky is the limit.
Yes,
Yeah.
exactly.
There's so many internal things are involved that hinder that growth. But once you break through it, it's sky's the limit.
Exactly. So I wish to hope we have you on. I'm going to end it right there. We've been going over an hour and 35 minutes here, but a lot of good stuff. I'm excited for you guys. I'm really curious. I'm really curious. Like I said, yeah, when you expand it, I want you to bring you guys back on and how you did it and how your life and systems have changed after that.
Yeah.
So,
Love to.
yeah.
Love to.